Can you see my presentation now? I'm going to go to full screen mode.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Okay, welcome everyone. This is the second chapter of the new book that we've been studying on, and I am doing part one because this particular chapter has many essays. So I'm doing the first portion of the chapter, essentially the first 6 in the chapter. Just want to make a note that my youngest son actually helped with one of the slides, so I want to put his name on there.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Let's go ahead and get started. In case you don't have the book yet, you have the option to order it online at Quest Book. There's sale going on. Just a reminder again, there's a sale. You can get 40% off on the book that we're studying, and this is the information that you can enter on the website when you order the book. Also, by the way, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, which the Quest Books website?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
The URL that you can see up here is questbook.com.
No, I'm fine for now. I made you coffee.
Okay.
Solid.
Okay.
Yep. I have also ordered 5 extra copy, and they have already sent to my house already. So this is just, I don't know when we're going to come back to meet physically in person at the lodge, but it should be ready to go. And then if anyone need it, it's available as well. Okay, so on this first chapter, the first essay, the title of the first essay is Effort is Required. One of the quote that David put into his essay was, one of the adepts described human nature as prejudice based on selfishness and a general unwillingness to give up an established order of things for new mode of life and thought. So I picked up this from, I don't know, you know, Tony Robbins. He's one of those motivational speaker. This quote, I think is more appropriate for this particular case, is he said that if you do what you have always done, you will get what you have always gotten. So I think that it's appropriate for this particular saying that we have a tendency to do essentially the same thing, and we don't want to change once we establish something that that we have worked, you know, as a habit. So the primary question that we have in this particular essay is, can we attain self-transformation without putting forth the necessary effort? So if you don't put into any sort of effort into trying to learn new stuff or trying to improve yourself, are you going to be able to be successful or not?
Of course not.
Okay.
Anything we do in life needs effort, even in cooking. If you want to improve your recipe, you have to practice more often. That's what I'm thinking.
Phương Anh, you may want to get a bit closer to your mic. It was a little bit low. I could hear you, but it's very low, faint. Okay. So I put together this next slide, which is this idea that David put into the same essay. It's essentially saying that our consumer-oriented society has created the impression that spiritual transformation and enlightenment are commonplace goods that one can acquire with minimal effort. So there's a popular trend out there, or culture out there, that essentially trying to push transformation and enlightenment more like a commodity where you can just easily trade and easily get it somehow. And I think that's part of the culture that we're living in today. You know, this is just a meme that I captured. Today, most of the time, you know, we are moving at with a really rapid, astounding rate of change and progress in terms of science and technology. So literally everything that we do these days, like, it had to be now, right? It's all about instant gratification. It's no longer, you know, delay gratification, but it's more toward trying to build how do we get things faster. And when thing doesn't go that fast, then we get frustrated. So, you know, like the services that are being provided to us, Netflix, Amazon Prime, and so on, everything in our lives is getting faster. If we need it, if we need something, we go on to Amazon, and with Amazon Prime, you know, it had been 2 days. Now it cut down to 1 day, and even faster. Sometimes you get it same day. So in terms of science and technology, everything is going a lot faster. And even with the pandemic and so on, we discovered that there are other players out there like Instacart and Peapod and Walmart and so on. They trying to compete, you know, delivery. You don't have to go shopping anymore. They deliver directly to your house or curbside pickup. So essentially, science technology has changed a whole lot. But in terms of our cell transformation, have we really transformed or not? And that's the key question. So this is one of the saying, one of the passages that David put into this particular chapter is about an assessment of the human greed and superficiality. So I'm going to just read through it. Look at the number of things that we buy because others have bought them because they are in most people's houses. One of the causes of the trouble that beset us is the way our lives are guided by the example of others. These are things that we shouldn't wish to imitate if they were done only by a few. But when a lot of people have started doing them, we follow along, although a practice becomes more respectable by becoming more common. Anyone familiar with this saying?
Yes.
Yes, it's happened lately.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, here's the author of that paragraph. Is Seneca. It's a Roman Stoic philosopher that lived almost 2 millennia ago, so almost 2,000 years already. So you can see that not a whole lot has changed in terms of how we behave. Even though our science and technology have changed a whole lot, it has improved and at a much more rapid rate than anyone could imagine. But in terms of our character and so on, we haven't changed a whole lot. So why is it? The question that is posed to us is, can human nature be changed in a fundamental way? And Theosophy offered this optimistic and practical answer. So in the Secret Doctrine, H.P. Blavatsky speak of an obligatory pilgrimage that admit no privilege or special gift, and that require personal effort and merit. And that's the key. I boldface that word personal, because that's the key to this whole dilemma. So most of the time we focus on the external, and that's the problem. We don't focus on the internal or our personal effort. So over an extended period of human incarnation, so she talked about whether or not we know it, but every one of us, every soul is essentially walking on this path of evolution. So the main point for this particular essay is nothing worthwhile in life is achieved without strenuous effort, and a sustained and monumental effort is required for success. Everything you do, everything you learn, everything you trying to grow and work at, it had to be a conscious effort. And unless you put in the effort, you cannot really grow and change. Before I continue with the next essay, is there any questions so far? Is everybody catch up on anything that we need to clarify?
I had a question which I put in the chat, but your last slide answered it. So thank you.
Okay. Why I'm sharing is not visible to the chat window. I'm trying to pull it up. See where how do I more discipline. I couldn't get to the chat window while I'm sharing.
Jam, you can go ahead and read it out.
Yeah. Could you go ahead and read it out to me, please?
Yes.
Yes, your microphone seems to be far away, so we couldn't hear you very well.
Okay, what I was, my question was, what exactly is the necessary effort to complete the obligatory pilgrimage? And I had not read Madame Blavatsky's book, so my question was answered by your last slide.
Oh, okay. Yes, it will Yeah, yeah. So the way it usually worked with this particular book is he would group a bunch of different essays together based on a specific theme, and whichever essay that you're reading, he usually offers some sort of introductory example at the beginning of the essay, and then he would offer some a little bit of advice depending on what the subject is, and then at the very end he would draw up a particular summary conclusion to illustrate the purpose of the essay. uh, Usually I find that when I go through this process of reading the chapter, is that every essay would be a little bit similar to the next, but they offer a little bit different here and there. So in terms of the advice or the answer or the practical way of implementing or going about the process of solving the problem or resolving or improving or learning or whatever it happened to be, he would offer some advice here and there. So you may not have the answer to the question that you seek until you read the entire chapter. So basically, the answer may not lie in one particular essay, but it usually is resolved when you read the next essay or the following essay and so on. He usually offer the advice or the strategy or the technique to how to resolve the issue. So that's why if we go through this, usually most of the question will be answered. But I just want to make sure that everyone in the study group is still following along as we go through and visit each one of the essay, so that we don't miss anything. So hopefully by the end of the slide, you will have your answer. If not, feel free to jump in at any point in time. So the problem is when I'm sharing, um, I don't get to see the chat window. I guess because some of the chat content may be private. So I don't think when I'm sharing it will allow me to see the chat information. I wish there was someone else sitting by me. um, yeah, so if you have a question, feel free to jump in and let me know. We can also visit that way as well. So let me go ahead and just continue with the next slide.
So I just I wanted to ask a general question. Maybe we can discuss it.
Okay, go ahead, John.
So, no, as the previous slides says that you need effort. So what are some of the efforts that we really need to put in? I mean, I can mention, for instance, because all the other bodies needs to be developed, or they need to shine through our physical body. So I mean, maybe one of the effort is maybe continuous study. Another effort will be the regular meditation. And another effort will be regular listening to the higher self or your intuition to find out exactly what needs to be done for us to move forward. So if somebody has got additional ideas about the effort, maybe we can share.
Yes, those are the I guess the three pillar for Theosophy, right? Is study, meditate, and service. those are three pillars in terms of theosophy. He did not go into that level of detail in this particular chapter. He did offer, like I say, the next essay does offer advice. So I'm going to go ahead and begin the next one. That way we can just go into more detail, I guess. So the next essay is human nature and character development. The belief that you cannot change human nature is nothing more than a convenient excuse to avoid doing the hard work required for living a life reflective of the teaching. And that's what he put in the book for this particular essay. And the example that he gave was the Sermon on the Mount. So those people that are Christian, Jesus provided in the Sermon on the Mount specific guidelines of how to live. And also for Theosophy, H.P. Blavatsky, Golden Stair, actually outlined what are the steps that we need to do to move higher, right? To move up in terms of developing our character, developing and our self-realization and moving higher. So in terms of this particular essay, he did not go into the specific. I guess most of these essays, like he said in the introduction earlier, most of the essays are short. They were designed to be brief and as concise as possible. So he did not go into any sort of level of detail that one would expect to see in a typical theosophical work like others, where they go and dive deep into the nitty-gritty detail. So most of the information or advice that you will see in this book is more kind of like a brief, broad stroke, right? They don't go into that level of detail that other work in TS you would see in other work in the Theosophy. But he did offer this advice. So what's the best way to go about changing yourself, ourselves? And he listed out that Aristotle actually say that excellence of character results from habit. So the main focus is there must be a consistency of effort put forth over a period of time to develop your habit. And so we're talking about good habit here, because bad habit, you don't need to put effort into developing bad habit. It happens naturally by itself. But good habit is something that you need to develop, right? And that's what he given as an example. And the practical example they gave was Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin Franklin would work on one virtue for each month of the year, right? He would focus on, I believe Ben actually have 13 different virtues that he practiced. So he would practice for every month of the year. He would focus and fine tune and focus. I mean, it go to the level of detail as much as possible, so that you practice and focus and learn the mistake that you go through in terms of each virtue. And then the general summary that he provided at the end of this particular essay is the trial and tribulation of daily life provide the battleground where our good resolve is tested. And good character cannot be wished into existence. It takes a sustained effort and must be developed in the hustle and bustle of daily existence. So, I mean, like everything in life, the only way that you get better at something is to go out there and experience it, do it. So the advice that he give here is essentially to practice on your developing your virtue. And that's the same advice that have been given in the little book At the Feet of the Master as well. Good conduct is something that every one of us should be developing. So is there any other question before I move on to the next one? Okay. This particular essay is Something Don't Change. The question that he posed was, has human nature changed over the past thousands of years? And the answer that H.P. Pulaski's answer is, civilization may progress, but human nature will remain the same throughout all ages. So despite the magic of modern science, the age-old vices such as avarice, laziness, and vanity continue to flourish. Just a nice example of a Twitter person. And then, you know, in our culture these days, it's not about the love and like, it's how many clicks that you get from someone. So this this paragraph that you see here is he put it into in this particular essay. I'm going to read it out. The person who live extravagantly want their manner of living to be on everybody's lips as long as they are alive. They think they are wasting their time if they're not being talked about. So every now and then they do something calculated to set people talking. Plenty of people squander fortune. Plenty of people keep mistresses. To win any reputation in this sort of company, you need to go in for something not just extravagant, but really out of the ordinary. In a society as hectic as this one, it takes more than common profligacy to get oneself talked about. So I don't know, you familiar with anyone that do this? I personally don't have a Twitter account, so I don't know. I don't practice these things. Anyway, who do you think? Who do you think this text actually come from? No answer?
Just like the one that you said earlier, maybe from thousands of years ago.
Somebody actually read the book.
Yes, I sure did.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, it's the same person. Yeah. So a lot of these things, you know, if we talk about human nature, not a whole lot has changed at all, and that's a problem. Unless we put the effort into developing our character, we don't develop any new good habit. The problem is if you don't put in the effort, you know, you automatically develop your bad habit. So that's why no matter how many incarnations we incarnate into, we keep, you know, repeating the same mistake over and over again.
So, right.
Yes.
I mean, if we look back in history, I think the state of consciousness of the whole mankind have changed. because what used to happen maybe 5,000 years ago, or even 500 years ago, or even 200 years ago, some of those things are not happening as they used to. So in a way, we have changed. I mean,
Good way
Yes.
or bad way?
I think for the better.
Yes. The problem is that change is rapidly in the external world, and that's the problem.
But
Because
but now, the way people feel about things is a little far different from how it was maybe 500 years ago. I mean, we have some more freedoms that were non-existent, or you could even have them.
I have another question though. I mean, that's one thought to think about. Oops.
You know, well, I'm just looking at what Blavatsky said. That civilization may progress, but human nature remain the same throughout all ages. And I'm just thinking, possibly there's some movement in terms of human nature towards the good.
yes, that's the whole premise why the Theosophical Society was created, right? The master look at the millennia that how human has progressed in terms of the spiritual aspect, and they want to improve that, and that's why the TS was created by H.P. Blavatsky, is to push, essentially push the spiritual development so that it evolve faster, right? The problem that we have is for the many millennia so far, we try to develop the science and focus on the materialistic world and not so much on the spiritual aspect. And that's the problem. Unless we move on the spiritual side, thing doesn't change. And that's what that's what I believe he's saying here, that you can have civilization, which is external, being grow and advance, but internally on the spiritual side, if you don't advance that, you don't have the balance that you need for both the external world and the internal world. Because at the end of the day, is the spiritual internal world that actually drive the external world. So if you just cover up the issue, which is trying to improve the external, but you're not improving the internal, the engine or the brain or the processing, the main processing unit of the car or whatever it happened to be, it will behave the same bad way that it used to be, right? So that's why it is. It's just something doesn't change. Something, that's what the title of this particular essay is. Something don't change. Because that change happened internally. That need to happen on a personal level and not so much at the society level. Because when we're talking about civilization, we talk about the overall society. Yes, there may be people, advanced people, that are spiritually advanced, a lot more of them, but unless society as a whole progress in that spiritual manner, we don't have that we still have that issue with you know, all that bad habit that's still there.
I have two questions though.
Okay.
First of all, when I believe, like what John says, I believe that humanity has come a long way as far as consciousness is concerned. There are more and more people aware of that we need to live from a place of higher consciousness. And so people are becoming more aware, more, there are groups of people that are doing things and changing, involved in living in a more conscious and aware way. So to say that we haven't come a long way and that we will never change, I don't believe that. And then number two is when we ask, things have changed because of science. Science, okay, it can be good or bad, but do we have to judge? Okay, let's take a look at judgment. When we start judging things as good or bad, and we start judging things outside of us, remember, we're also judging ourselves. We will continuously start judging everything as good or bad. But if we believe in a higher power and higher divine, what if everything is happening in perfect order? And look at this, even COVID, we can look at everything that's happening and say, oh, this is bad. But maybe this is good. This is a whole destruction for something new to happen. This is the way I'm looking at it. I think this is a good thing. And I'm actually looking at COVID as a good thing. Why do we have to judge? Remember, when we start judging, we're judging, and if you judge something else or somebody else, remember, somebody else is going to judge you too. So we got to stop judgment, because judging will never take us to a higher consciousness.
Yes. Yeah. No.
I would say yes and no.
I would say people are no. You judge yourself. Internally, you always have self-reflection, and you at the end of the day, you always ask yourself, my actions will be selfish or selfless. So that's the matter. When you want to move toward spiritual actions or morals, then you have to think of your action as selfless action or selfish. So it's not good or bad. It's about selfishness or
okay. What is the meaning of that's another whole topic? What's the meaning of selflessness? Does selflessness mean you give everything, you do everything until you are so? People have a different conception of selflessness. I give of myself so much that I'm so depleted that I don't take care of my needs when I don't listen to my body, that I need to good nutrition, and because I'm just giving. And I think that's a lot of, and I think we as women will understand that when we give and we don't think of ourselves, and then we get depleted, and it's like, hey, what's wrong? So there has to be a balance. Yeah.
Yes, you think about taking care of your own kids. So you do things for them without thinking about yourself. But what about for other people? Do you do the same thing to other people, the way you take care of your kids? So that will come into the decision making, like you do for other people with purpose or without purpose. I think that would measure that.
Yeah, I'd like to comment a bit about what you say about judgment. I don't think
we can barely hear you, Triet. Can you do you have I can barely hear you. Even I have my headset on.
Can you hear me now?
It's better, yeah.
Okay, so let me comment a little bit on judgment. I'm not trying to judge. Actually, this entire chapter, they're not trying to judge anything. what he is trying to do is to put out there um, observation, right? Um, and this whole thing is about lessons. It's not about judgment. Um, yeah, we have a tendency to use uh, dualistic wording, good and bad. Okay, it's just human nature. That's the way that we work because it's easy for us. So if you are talking about in a dualistic manner, um, you're gonna have good and bad. But like I say in the earlier chapter, chapter 1, good and bad is all depend on your interpretation. Um, I completely agree with you that COVID-19 is a good thing because it's a lesson. It's a lesson for all of us. Um, all the things that are happening socially, those are lessons for us. I don't classify, I don't judge them as good or bad. Because the moment that you start judging, that you are now falling into the trap of the intellect, that monkey brain that actually trying to reason, that trying to divide and so on, trying to analyze and break down everything. Like I say last time, like a quarter, right? The quarter has two sides to it, the head and the tail. And the moment that you start analyzing, are you on the head or are you on the tail? You lost the spiritual aspect of it. When we are talking about spirituality, selflessness, it's about having a common denominator. That's the one thing that makes the holistic. Everything is holistic. The problem with that we have with civilization so far is that we develop externally, the manifest universe, right? But we're not trying to develop the internal or the spiritual universe, and that's the problem. And that's what he's trying to point out here, that we place so much focus on developing and solving problem in the external world, while at the same time our internal, our spiritual is going hungry. We're not developing and we're not putting the effort to exercise our spiritual character, developing our good virtue, and so on. So it's not about judgment. It's not about being good or bad. This is about having developed your internal, right? You have to think of everything holistically. There is the internal and the external. And oftentimes we place so much focus on the external world that we lose focus on the internally. So unless we develop and enhance and improve our character, society as a whole can never grow.
I agree. I think it all starts with the individual and so where do habits start? Habit starts from us individually. Where do habits start? Habit starts from the way we think. It's all thoughts. Thoughts are energy. Thoughts, when you think of the same thought or belief over and over again, that is when a thought is when you think of a thought over and over again, it becomes a belief. And then a belief becomes your behavior. Your behavior becomes your personality. So I agree, we all have a responsibility of, we can only work on ourselves. We have to do the work. We have to work on, and as you say, effort, I guess that is the effort that they're talking about. We have to make an effort to change the way we think. Because if we don't change the way we think, we will continue to create what we have created, like exactly what Anthony Robbins says. So that's what I meant by If we have a habitual pattern of judging things, for example, we say dark is bad, light is good, but imagine if we didn't have dark, we wouldn't know what light is. They work hand in hand. Imagine if it was just all light and when there was no dark and you had a flashlight. Can you see a flashlight in the light if it was just all light? Because you need darkness to see light. That's why we need the duality. So when something happens, even to us or to our environment, we tend to judge it. But knowing that there's bad that can come out of good, there can be good that can come out of bad. You see what I'm saying? So again, it's, unless we change the way we think, we will continue to create the same thing over and over again. And if we want to see something new in this world, we have to think differently, to think and have new beliefs, to create a new behavior and to create a new personality. That's the only way anything new will come out.
I think that's Shanti, I agree with you. I think that's what the whole chapter is about. They're just pointing out, like Anjik said, pointing out that human nature is very hard to change. Yeah, they might change a little bit, but if they had changed as much as modern science or civilization, then we would have more adepts than people shopping at the grocery stores. Is that one part of the book that said that, Anjik? That's why you don't have a lot of adepts. We have more people like us who are still struggling to towards finding our divine wisdom.
Yes.
Why do we need to struggle? That I don't understand why we need to struggle.
Oh, like Fali, if he was on the meeting, he would say, we are living in the Kali Yoga, the Iron Age. So in this particular period, we have no choice, right? I mean, that is at this level of spiritual development we are currently in. It's called Kali Yoga, which is very tough for us to focus on developing those higher level, those realms that we are talking about at the.
So you're saying we have no choice, but to think something is a choice, right? We can choose.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Oh.
During this particular time frame, right? Which is like the Kali Yoga, the focus is, the emphasis is on developing the mind, right? So it's not focusing on developing the intuition, which is at the higher level. So at the later stage, people will, at the next round, that's where those souls that are in that they already they already learned the lesson of the mind, right? They have already made the mistake of the mind, and they learn their lesson, and they no longer have to reincarnate and learn the lesson like we are doing right now. At that stage is a lot simpler, a lot easier. You don't no longer have to use your mind to do. Your mind is no longer in control. Kind of like, you know, in the early stage where you're developing your emotion, your astral body, and so on. Those are emotion driven, right? We are past that stage already. Our soul at the developing of the mind, and not so much the emotion. So our mind is able to control our emotion, right? So it's very, very easy for our mind to control our emotion. Well, it's not very easy, but it's easier, right? And the same thing will happen for the next round of people where they already developed their mind and they're at the Buddhi level. At the Buddhi level, they use intuition to do everything they do. at the institution level, everything is the truth. There's no lying, right? You could not just lie to people and get away with it, because at that level, there's no, the mind is not interfering anymore. But the level that we are at right now, in this particular incarnation, we have to use our mind to decipher what's right, what's wrong. It's called discernment or discrimination, right? So it's very hard for us to do and live in our society, because we have to apply kind of like you have different set of tools, right? You can use your booty, which know everything as the truth, or you can use your mind, which does not know everything, which it had to rely on the booty to tell us what's right and what's wrong. It had to discern for itself, which is very hard. Sorry, I digress, but that's my level of understanding as it is. So should we continue, or do we want to dive deeper into this?
Continue, please.
Let's continue.
Okay. Okay, so this slide, thanks to my youngest son, Will, he put it together. Something can change. The quote that was put in the book was, as for human nature in general, it is the same as it was 1,000,000 years ago. And that's from the Master KH. So it's not just H.P. Pulaski that say those things. It's the Master that actually say the same thing. It essentially takes years to master something, and everyone start off with your raw talent. Some may hear from others and think that they can master with ease. You know, people perhaps go onto Google and just search for something and you get the answer, and then you can master it, right? But that's not really true in terms of the internal, the developing your good character. It takes more than just that. The message we can take from studying the lives of deeply spiritual people, that self-transformation is possible, but is not the work of a few short months or years, and it may take several lifetimes. So Saint Augustine struggled with this as well. So when he followed Christ, he had to do battle with his habit, sensuality, and physical gratification. And then to embark, David put in his essay, to embark on the path to self-realization, the aspiring pilgrim need the mental discipline of an attorney, the stamina of an athlete, and the sensitivity of a concert pianist. So, as we say earlier, it's not easy. And that's why human nature did not change over millions of years. There is no easy shortcut on this spiritual path.
So
Yeah,
try the previous slide. So where this quote, to embark on the path, where did it come from?
Are you talking about the bold face at the bottom? There's no easy shortcut?
No. That aspiring program needs the mental discipline of an attorney, the stamina of an athlete, and the success.
Oh, that's David.
David?
Yeah, I took it literally out of the essay.
It's the last paragraph, on that essay.
Okay. So do we really need that? Mental discipline of attorney, stamina of an athlete, and sensitivity of a pianist.
Yes, we
Because
do.
I don't know. Well, I'm not an attorney. I'm not an athlete. I'm not a pianist. So.
Well, okay. So let me share my experience. I've been with thanks to COVID. I've been really lazy before COVID actually. Thanks to COVID, I've been joining my wife at the park every day, early in the morning, and she always run before me. So it takes lots of mental discipline, right? I mean, I have to admit, I don't have that mental discipline to continue to run. I can sprint. I can certainly sprint and then run in front of her, but then she just, eventually I get tired, right? And she would beat me. So you got to have the mental discipline to do anything in life. The stamina or the endurance. Well, she certainly have more than I have. And the sensitivity of the concert pianist. What I mean is, both of my son Alex and Lisa, they play piano, so I know to sound good, to master, to be a master at something, you have to be sensitive enough to detect the low note, the high note, the middle note, what need to be strong, what need to be soft, piano, forte, and so on. So the same thing with running as well. I have to learn from her, right? You have to understand how your body works. You have to understand your breathing. You need to breathe not just your nose. You need to breathe with your mouth as well. Because if you're not breathing, you're not bringing in enough oxygen to your body, and then you get tired real easily. So there's a lot of things that she shared with me. There's a lot of learning that are happening. So all of this is same thing with, that's the world that we live in, right? But mentally, we as individual, we have to learn that spiritually as well. When we meditate, what is it that it is trying to tell us? You know, if we fail at something, what lesson are we learning from here? What can we do to be better the next time around? So that's what I'm going to prepare for my next slide. This next slide, this is not in the book, by the way. This next slide is not in the book. I want to make sure to emphasize that. In life, you cannot change your situation. Most of the time, you cannot change your situation. Most of the time, life hands you the card that you've been dealt with. It's up to you to change the way how you live, how you deal with it. You play with the hand that have been given to you. So this slide is about, yeah, you cannot change your circumstance, but you can always change how you deal with it, right? You can, like the guy that's sitting at the bottom of the stair, you can totally reject it, right? You say, I am poor, I am uneducated, I am weak, I am this, I am that, excuse this, excuse that, and so on, and turn your back away from it all and ignore it completely. That guy never gonna grow. And then it really depends on which step you are in this particular platform. So as you move along the platform, eventually you will succeed. Spiritually, as well, mentally, physically everything in life, not just. So this is just my slide. It had nothing to do with the book or the chapter itself, but I thought it may help, right? It may help people. So I put it in.
It's a very good motivation.
Okay. Okay, so on to the next essay. The illusion of separateness. Our existence depends on the existence of countless others, the vast majority of whom we will never ever meet. So the example that David put in this particular essay was about gene, Western gene. So you just think of all the things that are happening if you go to the store and pick up some denim jean. There are lots of things that have been happening that you're not even aware of, and we can say the same thing for literally everything after COVID-19 has hit us, right? Just the simple stuff: paper towel, hand sanitizer, food. Lots of people, lots of hands that have been put into whatever that we consume, whatever that we use. The example that he gave in the book is about gene, like who designed the gene, who actually sold the gene, who actually manufactured the zipper, what kind of gene is it when the designer put it together, what kind of material you need to put together the gene, is it a zipper, is it a button fly, what kind of design that people like. The designer had to come up with a new design to make people happy. And then after they manufacture it, they need to distribute it somehow. Who do the distribution at the store? Who actually stock it? Who actually stock the shelf with these genes? And then on to the actual consumer. Who's gonna be buying the gene? Who's gonna be wearing the gene? And then maybe they didn't like the gene. Who's gonna accept the return for the gene? And who provide the feedback, whether or not the gene is working out okay, is there a flaw in the gene, and so on. So you can see from this simple example, we are no longer separate like it used to be in the old days in the Western world. That the example that he gave with John Wayne in the movie, right? Just leave everything and go out there, be the Lone Ranger. But that's not true anymore. In the new culture, new world that we live in, everything is interconnected. So the summary of this particular essay is that we are connected with the rest of humanity, and in more ways than we can imagine. Anyone want to comment, question anything about this particular essay?
Yeah, this is more relevant, this illusion of separateness in the Christian world, because on Sunday you're supposed to keep Sabbath, which means you don't work at all. But in order for one person to keep Sabbath and go to church, somebody has to go to work and provide water for a shower, electricity, food in restaurants, gas for the car, lights, traffic lights to work, etc., etc. So this requirement of Sabbath is also an illusion.
Yes, and I would flip it around as well. Okay, so on Sunday, you're supposed to behave. So does that mean the rest of the 7 day, the 6th day of the remaining of the week, you're not supposed to behave?
No,
right?
it's not
A
big.
day of rest, not behave.
No, no. I mean, so in reality, Christian go
To
to church,
replenish yourself.
right? Christian go to church on Sunday. They supposed to behave. They supposed to observe good etiquette and so on. So does that mean that the rest of the week you behave differently? Because in business there's no you know, you have to separate yourself from business versus religion, and that's not true. I mean, in life you live holistically, right? I mean, if you're going to be developing your character, you need to live holistically. All 7 days the week need to be the same way, to develop your character, and not just trying to do it on the one day that you have to go to church. And that's what I'm saying.
I think every moment by moment, we have to live with awareness and consciousness. That's what is the meaning of spirituality anyway? I believe it's just moment by moment. Every action, every thought to be so conscious and aware. I believe what has been happening is most of us, including when I say we, it includes myself, is we 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 live our life so unconsciously. We sleepwalk through our life. We don't consciously live our lives because a lot of these habits and things are habitual that are running in the background. So if we consciously, the next thought or the next action, we put more thought and be more conscious. That's what living is, moment by moment. So not just on Sunday or when we meditate. Anything can be meditative, right? Cooking can be meditative. Eating is meditative. Walking can be meditative. When I'm talking to you, if I'm present with you. That's, I mean, I'm paying attention to what you're saying. I'm listening. I'm not trying to figure out what's happening and something else happening in the background. So I think that's what we have to train ourselves, which is not easy.
Yes. The main word I want to use for that is focus, right? The problem is our mind does not like to focus.
And I think that's where social media has come into play, has helped us defocus. You know, our mind is going so many different ways. So again, I want to say the focus and defocus of the mind is good again, but when we use it to benefit us, that's, you know, we will realize what we.
Yep. So we are on to the last essay for this meeting. The pervasive appeal of superficiality. To
Jeff, we
discover.
can barely hear you.
Oh, um, I don't know why the mic.
Do you have headsets on?
No, I don't have headset on. I just have the computer microphone. I don't know why it's misbehaving today, but I gotta remind myself to get closer to the camera, I guess. So the main idea is to discover the inner self is the work of a lifetime. And we mentioned earlier, like Google, right? I mean, the popular culture these days that we seem to have the mentality or the idea that we can just literally go to Google and get the answer to everything that we need. And that's not really true in terms of the process of self-discovery. to grow to grow a particular virtue of character development is not easy to just go out and just get the answer without each individual making the effort to exercise and to experience it, right? Until we actually make the conscious effort to experience it and know how to deal with that situation, then we cannot say anything. Someone can show us how to do something, but it's still up to us to discover for ourselves, right? Um, like the old saying, there's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path. Anyway, the spirit will endure after the persona perish. Again, we're talking about the different body here. So at the higher level, our spirit will live on in over many incarnations, but these body that we use, they get perish, so they go away. So that we have to keep a balance between the inner and the outer, the surface and the depth. We are to live a spiritual life in this world. This image that I have on the right, it's not, I don't know if it's appropriate or not, but it's kind of like appealing to me, so that's why I put it here. You can see here, this is more focused toward life itself. It doesn't have anything to do with Theosophy, but most of the things that we do are kind of like look at on the surface, right? We look at other people's success, that's all superficial. But most of the time we don't look at the inner or the deeper level of things that are happening behind the scene. With an athlete that successful, they have to put in a lot of persistence and sacrifice and so on, all these different things that are happening behind the scene that we don't actually see. And so that's the whole reason why I put this slide, this particular image into this particular slide, is that
Trey, this is the same analogy we use when we talk about the mind. It's like an iceberg. The mind, the conscious mind is above the iceberg, but it's only like 5%. 95% of what we do is under the water that we don't see. So that's what we refer to. So, and we are already programmed to behave a certain way, talk a certain way, or think a certain way, and we're not conscious of that and bring it to our awareness. This is the program that's running in the background that comes out as our personality and our behavior. And unless, so what essentially we're saying is we have all lived giving importance to the outer world, seeking for answers outside of us. We think Google is God, right? Now everything is Google. We punch in and we get the answer, instead of trusting, believing and trusting that we have the innate wisdom to find the answers to our problems within us if we can sit and connect with that source that's always there. And when we do that and connect to that, then we become more aware of these programmings, and we will know how to shift and change to a different level of consciousness. So I wouldn't say it's not related to Theosophy, because Theosophical Society is all about not just ancient wisdom, it's about science also, right? So we can't say science is bad. Science has come up to prove what, I mean, the yogis and the shamans already known a long time ago, but we as human beings needed something scientific. Everything has to be scientifically proven. So I think science and religion, spirituality are coming together now. And that's why I believe more people are going through higher level, practicing meditation and going, achieving higher levels of consciousness. When you're in a higher level of consciousness, you're vibrating at a higher frequency, and you can connect better, like tuning into the radio station of the universe or divine or whatever you want to call it. Hope that makes sense.
Yes, I understand it perfectly. Yeah, so when you're tapping into intuition at the Buddhi level, that is the truth already. So when you're working at the truth, there's no arguing, there's no reasoning, there's no debating. So it is what it is. So you're behaving directly from the source. So you know what's right and what's wrong already. You don't have to decide. And that's a problem. The mind need to decide, and the mind want to make, interfere here and there.
But when we say mind, we have to be careful. There's if Fali was here, there's a lower mind and there's a higher mind. The lower mind is what's connected to the personality. The higher mind is when we say oneness, the lower mind and the higher mind have to work together first, and then the higher mind with divine, with source, right? Mm-hmm. And when all are in alignment, that's when things will fall in place, right? Yes. Yeah, so that's why meditation is one way. Yeah, it is important, to still that analytical mind so we can connect to that higher level.
Yep.
Hi, Antiet. Is there a way for us to get Fali to join a meeting so we can all can listen to his wisdom?
Well, I talked to him yesterday, and I told him to get to the meeting, and he said, let me see if I can get out. I said, well, you need a ride or something? He said, no.
Does he know how to join the meeting? Maybe.
Yeah, he was in a couple of meetings in the first two meetings. He just didn't show his face, but he could hear us talking. Okay. Yeah, he was there.
I would be happy to go to his place and turn it on for him, but at his age, I don't want to endanger him by my exposure. So that's why I'm hesitant.
Yeah.
Okay. Well.
Should we have a call-in? Should I try and call him now? He can. Let's see if he's awake. Let's wake him up. Let's have some fun here.
Yes, exactly.
Tell him we're looking for him, right?
Well,
that's a good idea. Wake him up.
Wake him up. He's like, Fali, you can't.
He hasn't heard the presentation, so he won't be able to comment.
But you know what? He can answer any question. You just ask him, he'll start talking.
Oh yeah, he's an encyclopedia.
He doesn't need to read the book, right?
Yep.
That's his own human nature.
Yeah, he's the walking encyclopedia. Because he did ask me to call him and tell him how the meeting went.
Okay.
Hang on. Mr. Fali, how are you? We're missing you in the meeting. Yes, we're in the meeting. We have so many questions and we don't have your wisdom. We don't have your wisdom.
Put him in on the speaker.
Okay, so what questions do y'all have for Farley? Anybody? We have questions for you.
What's going on? There's a discussion.
There's a major discussion here.
So, and then
Do y'all have any questions now that I have Farley here?
but annual general meeting also.
We're still discussing the book. We're still talking about the chapter 2 of the book.
Okay. And, who else is there?
Our president is here, Triet is here, Van is here, Mr. Jamshed is here, Jennifer is here, and John Atia is here, Alina, PA, Lynn is here.
Yeah. And it will go on for some time.
Well, do y'all have questions?
I have one question.
Okay, Mr. Jamshed has a, we have a question for you.
The book says that we need the mental discipline of an attorney.
Okay, I'm going to tell you in a minute.
Stamina of an athlete, sensitivity of a concert pianist. How do I develop these? Because I read the book and I also did not understand the meaning of the word profligacy. So I looked it up. And so I had read the paragraph from Seneca, but yet when Triet asked the question, where did this come from? I was blank. So how in the world am I going to develop the mental discipline
Mr. Farley, just so you know,
if I can't even remember something that I had read?
Triet, can you put that slide up again, please? Can you share that?
Okay, let me go ahead.
The question is, the book says, right? In order to change, we need it says, to embark on the path of self-realization, the aspiring pilgrim needs the mental discipline of an attorney, the stamina of an athlete, and the sensitivity of a concert pianist. So we're not lawyers and pianists and athletes. So how would you relate that to people like us?
Didn't pick up the question properly.
Okay, how to embark on the path of self-realization? To embark. Can you hear me?
Not properly.
Can you hear me now? How do we embark on self-realization when we have to aspire like an attorney, the stamina of an athlete, or a concert pianist? Okay.
Can't really understand. Is it to aspire? Yes.
Aspire like the needs of the mental discipline of an attorney.
Yeah, mental discipline.
Like an attorney.
Yeah. But that is common sense. If you want to grow, you have to improve the process of growth. But I'm not clear why this is considered self-evident.
Okay. How about the sensitivity of a concert pianist? What does that mean? The sensitivity of a concert pianist.
The concert pianist is requires a developed ear, ear for music, and I think it's in the book, is it, this question?
The sentence, the paragraph was in the book. The paragraph was in the book.
In the book, yeah. The concert pianist is artistic, but not a very good phrase. I don't think we should give this much importance.
The Fali has a book.
Okay.
Do you know if Fali has a book?
No, I don't think this is a good.
Okay.
Santi, do you know if Fali has a book?
Concert pianist is rare. I mean, who can be considered a concert pianist, It's an artistic, like a painter. Now, a painter is artistic, and not everybody can be an artist, But I think in a concert, you have to cooperate with the other instruments. Maybe the meaning is that you have to be part of a group. In a concert, you don't just play on your own. You play as part of the conductor. As the conductor directs you, you play in the concert pianist. So we have to be aware that we are part of a whole and not the whole itself. And we have to be a team player. A team player?
Yes.
A team player. We have to be a team player, part of a team, and not just play on our own and disregard the other players in the concert. It's a collaborative effort, and we have to play a part, allowing for everybody to play their part according to the conductor. Now, the conductor is our higher self. And when we listen to our conductor, then we play the right tones, the right music, and collaborate with everybody to produce the change. But most people are not aware of the conductor, and they play the music as they think, and that music
Harmonious.
appropriate, and we see the result of that. Everybody playing their own piano concert music and coming up short. So I think we have to collaborate. And the music harmony is only good if all the instruments play properly at the right time. There's no harmony in society if everybody plays their own music in their own way and disregard the conductor who is there to coordinate all the activities of the music. So I think it refers to inability to be part of the whole.
And what was the other one? So collaborate as a
Collaborate, yes. The music is only good if all the instruments are playing properly at the right time. But so that requires a conductor. You know, a conductor conducts the music. You know, conductor.
Yes, yes. So the conductor will be the higher source, right? Like
the conductor is the higher self, and when you disregard the conductor, everybody plays their own music, and we don't get harmony. We don't get peace because everybody thinks that their music is better than another person's music. There's no harmony in society.
okay.
That's why sensitivity means being aware of the music of the other players in the orchestra, and only then you will get harmony. So you have to be sensitive to the music of the other players also. That sensitivity means the other players we have to take into account in a concert.
Thank you, Mr. Farley. Any other questions?
Yeah. Any other questions?
It says mental discipline of a lawyer.
Yeah. Now, a lawyer is trained to use the law to make his point. Now, the law is the laws of nature. So, if I study the laws of nature, I will act in a way that supports the intention of evolution. And if a lawyer does not know the law, he cannot apply it properly, and he cannot succeed when he has a case. So the lawyer is trained to utilize the law skillfully, but we are not doing that. We think this.
No sound, Shanti.
I couldn't hear anything else. No more.
Can't hear anything anymore.
Is that disconnected with Mr. Farley?
Harmony in nature of the society. The laws of nature. We have to be aware of the laws of nature. And these laws are intelligence, not common sense intelligence, but transcendental intelligence. So when we acquire some value of transcendental intelligence, our actions and our thinking will automatically be aligned with the laws of nature, and we will promote evolution. But if the thinking is not backed by that intelligence, then we will all lead different lives with no coordination. And we see this in society, different groups thinking that they know the laws of growth, and we don't get the progress. So laws of nature is a lawyer. We have to be lawyers of the laws of nature.
And the last one is stamina of an athlete. Stamina of an athlete.
Yeah. Stamina of an athlete. Now, in life, events take place that we don't expect. To get over such events, we require stamina. We don't say, oh, okay, I can't handle this, and stop. So stamina is required to overcome all handicaps which everybody has in life. We cannot avoid handicaps. But if we give the handicap to the handicap, then we do not grow. So stamina is a determination to overcome all handicaps, knowing that we have the ability to do it. So when I know I have the ability, that is stamina. But if you don't use your ability, you don't use your stamina, you then don't grow or evolve as you should, as is expected.
Thank you, Mr. Farley.
Thank you, Shanti.
No more? Okay, okay. I'll call you later after the meeting.
Thank you, Mr.
Call
Farley.
me after the meeting, okay?
Thank you. Okay, bye.
Bye, Shanti.
Bye.
Good answer.
Does that put things in perspective?
Yes, a lot clearer now for me as well.
Yeah, it's not that we are being asked to be lawyers and pianists and athletes, but it is coming in harmony, working together, not in a competitive way, but in a collaborative way. So we live in harmony. I think not just live in harmony. First of all, we have to live in harmony with nature, and we can see we all haven't been living in harmony with nature. And then living in harmony with your own nature, your true nature. And as I think we forgot who we are. We forgot our true nature. Our true nature, we are all love, and we are all compassionate and kind and all of those things. But because we live in this material world, we think we have to struggle and be competitive, and it's a rat race, and we get caught up in that. But our true nature is not that. If we live with our true nature and in alignment with the will of the source that created us, and not deviate from that is the goal. And knowing the laws of nature, right? And then having the mental discipline and the stamina to do it. Yes, we are very critical of ourselves, and that's why that's where I believe the judgment statement came, that we judge ourselves also. I'm not good enough. I'm this, I'm that. Someone did something to me when I was a kid. I cannot forgive, blah, blah, blah. We have all of this, and the iceberg is a perfect example. Everything's happening in the iceberg level, and we come on and live in this world like we're not enough. We need to struggle. We need to do this. We need to do that. But what if we just lived our true nature and connect with that nature and just allow God to play, or divine to play out in our lives? But it takes effort. Triet was saying in the book, it takes effort because we've been so programmed to live the other way, and we thought that was the right way, right? Come back to your true nature. Come back to the laws of nature. Come back. But we need to have that mental discipline. Phew. That was heavy. Thank you.
So that's the end of all the slide that I have. Is there any other questions? Should we go ahead and conclude, and then I guess we have the member meeting right away, or how does that work?
Yeah, I think maybe
Should we have some break first before we start the next meeting?
Okay.
Break. You want a breakfast or breakfast?
No, a break. A break.
Give us maybe 5-minute break before we
Yeah.
start the business. Yes.
Yep.
so. It's now
Right.
almost 11:55. So you want us to
Come back at 12.